Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to call the Haymarket Town Council regular monthly meeting for Tuesday, September 3rd to order. Roll call, please.
DNA,
Here.
Casanello,
Present.
Burton. He's here. Hager,
Here.
Snyder,
Here.
Ramirez,
Here.
Gallagher.
Here.
For the record, Mayor Larson is attending by Zoom from his home.
All right. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we will now have the invocation given by Pastor Mark Olson from Haymarket Baptist Church.
Please pray with me. Father, I pray that you would bless our mayor and vice mayor and each member of the town council. Bless also each member of our town staff who is here. We pray that the meeting would be one that would be conducted with the utmost respect for one another, especially if there's an area of disagreement, that we would show how to lead by showing respect for those we disagree with. And we pray that every decision made here would be one that was in the best interest of the citizens of our fair town. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a presentation from the Jeannie Green of Alex's Army.
All right.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and council members. So I just want to thank you all for inviting our foundation, Alex's Army, back to share with you. I think the last time we were here, it was in 2022. This is a special year for us as we turn 10 years old. We're a 501c3 nonprofit based here in Haymarket. Our mission is to fund research with a focus on Wilms tumor, to raise awareness for all childhood cancers, and to be a source of support and encouragement for families in our community and the childhood cancer community. The gold ribbons that you guys see through the town, we put those up. We also have provided one for you. So September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And thanks to you all for coming alongside us. We have for the last, I think, 4 or 5 years, been allowed to put these gold ribbons up on the light posts. It's something that is an honor for us to get to do, but also shows families in our community that they're not alone in their fight, and that, you know, we are behind them. One of the things I've always been proud of in our community is just the way that we all rally around each other when families are going through the unimaginable. So I've been able to share kind of about our mission the last several years, and but I always think it's most important when we get to invite families from our community to share. In 2022, Kendall's mom spoke to you all. Kendall wasn't able to be here. But today, Kendall is here to share her story, a little bit about her story. She's a senior this year at Battlefield High School. She is a survivor in remission for lymphoma. And honestly, I cherish, you know, I don't enjoy the way that, you know, we meet and come, you know, to know each other. However, you know, we've had several conversations, and she's very witty and funny and just beautiful and just has a kind soul. And so I just wanted to give the floor to Kendall so that she could share her story.
Well, hi, my name is Kendall. So I was diagnosed pretty much the first day of summer after my freshman year, and that was 2021. So it was kind of during the pandemic. So I had just started going to Battlefield. I didn't really know anyone because I was on Zoom. So I was kind of by myself when I got diagnosed. However, I had an amazing organization like Alex's Army. So when I would be coming home from the hospital, because I'd be in treatment for a week at a time, I would drive home and I'd come into my neighborhood and I'd see gold ribbons everywhere. They put little green bows, which was the color of my cancer ribbon for lymphoma. They put green bows on all the trees and the mailboxes of every single house. When I finished treatment in October, she organized a whole parade at Battlefield. So I got to see everyone from my school almost, even though I didn't know anyone. I had a sense of community, which was really amazing. And so getting to drive through the town, seeing the gold bows, it was really cool because I had a sense of comfort when I was kind of by myself during treatment, but it was really a nice little experience. I didn't always know what childhood cancer really meant. I didn't know the month of September before I got diagnosed, but now it's something I have personal experience with. So now it's something I work more towards because it's something I care about. But yeah, the gold bows are something I found really special once I got to know them more. And yeah, Jenny is amazing, and I would not have been able to get through it. I really would not have done it without her. And just the little things like that.
So we just want to say thank you guys so much for inviting us here, for recognizing Childhood Cancer Awareness Month and helping us to raise awareness. So thank you. Do you guys have any questions or anything? I'm sorry.
Sure. Do you want to give us your address and where we can send donations or?
Sure. So we're online, alexsarmyccf.org. We have Facebook, Instagram pages, and then our mailing address is in Haymarket, 5501 Merchants View Square, number 758, Haymarket, Virginia. But we accept donations online as well.
Excellent. Great job, Kendall.
Thank you.
A question too. So in addition to the bows, what are the other, do you have other annual fundraising events? What are the other things that you?
Yeah, so I'm proud to say we started in 2014, and a major part of our mission is to fund research so that we can be a part of finding cures. And we have to date been able to provide $605,000 in research funding through Children's National Hospital. Previously, we were focusing on immunotherapy studies and less toxic treatments. We host fundraisers like our golf tournament in the spring. This year, we actually have our 10-year, it's called our Hearts of Gold Gala. So we only do that every 5 years. We'll be doing that in November. So that'll be a big event. Registration's opening soon for that. But we also host awareness events. You might have heard of, like, we did a Guinness World Record attempt 3 times trying to break the record for the most people doing push-ups at our local high schools. The way that came about was my son Alex had an alarm on his phone to do 20 push-ups every day, even though he was paralyzed and was going through treatment. He was incredibly tough. And after he passed, we came up with this idea to, one, honor him on what would have been his 13th birthday, but also just really provide a childhood cancer support and awareness event. We invited all of the local childhood cancer families to show people how many families really are impacted by childhood cancers in our community. And so we never broke the record, but it was an incredible event. Our highest attended was over 1,100 people. So it was pretty awesome. But we also hold like support events, couples retreats, family events, and things like that. So.
Do you know approximately how many children you're serving right now or supporting?
I would say, in our local community, we have a handful of kids that are currently in treatment. That's like Gainesville, Bristow, Manassas, and Haymarket. And unfortunately, when children are diagnosed, because they are so resilient, they are often at further stages when they're diagnosed, because, they'll just keep playing because that's what they want to do. And so a lot of times, they are it is a later stage diagnosis. We've provided over 1,000 care packages, pillowcases, things like that, to families across the country as well since we started in 2014. We're no longer, because of COVID, able to go into the hospital to deliver. We used to do that on a monthly basis. So now we provide care packages and gift cards, just through deliveries to the hospital. And then we also started a scholarship program for athletes impacted by childhood cancers. a couple of years ago. And to date, we've been able to provide $35,000 in scholarship funds. And several of those have been athletes from Battlefield High School and other local high schools. So,
Wonderful, thank you.
Don't go away.
okay.
I was sharing a story with Kendall before about myself being a lymphoma survivor. One of the things, and you did a great job, Kendall. Come on up here. Don't be. I mean, this is just a wonderful story. That's the beauty of research, right? The science to kind of find new cures and new treatments. And one of the areas that are very weak in being treated are adolescent and young adults, where you are essentially. And we need to have some more awareness about that. I was wondering if I could send you a link for that kind of information, AYA for lymphoma, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I volunteer for the Lymphoma Research Foundation in New York City, the biggest 501c3 in the country, focused just mainly on lymphoma. And, the fact of the matter is September is Blood Cancer Awareness Month. September 15th, which happens to be my wife's birthday, is Lymphoma Awareness Day, World Lymphoma Awareness Day. And, having your story would be very helpful in helping to raise awareness. And I'm just wondering if I reach out to you, maybe we can get some of that information uploaded.
Yeah,
If that would be okay with you guys. Okay, thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you guys for coming, and Kendall, I'm really happy you're here. So thank you guys.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on to citizens' time. Is there anyone wishing to address the town council at this time? Nope. Okay. We can move on to the consent agenda. Would anybody like to pull anything off the consent agenda? Nope. Okay.
That's a first.
It is a first. Okay, then I'll make a motion, Madam Vice Mayor, if you'd like.
Yes, please.
I move that the Haymarket Town Council approve consent agenda items A, 1, and 2, B, 1 through 5, and C, 1 through 5.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion has carried. Thank you. All right, so we will move on to our next agenda items. So our first agenda item is the Town Center Project RFP.
Right, thank you, Vice Mayor. I apologize, most of the students here are not going to listen to how we make the sausage. So, okay, I have a short PowerPoint presentation for the next two items. I'm going to leave the dais and go ahead and present from the podium if that's okay. I'm missing something going on. He's texting me. So thank you for fellow council members for the opportunity to speak. I'm not going to make, unfortunately, one or maybe several of the strategic planning exercises throughout the rest of the fall. So an opportunity to sort of offer some feedback or some perspectives before those efforts go underway. So first, last month we had the presentation of the credit benchmarks and debt capacity report. It was an interesting read, and I think I appreciate staff putting through it. I know the Finance Committee hasn't had a chance to go through it in detail, but it does have a pretty good accounting of the way we manage and the way we spend and the way we plan for the future. With this particular item, last year we prioritized three major projects. It was the town park, the town center master plan, and also potentially some public parking opportunities. And so I think we've vetted that. We've come to a general consensus. We've prioritized. So even though we were getting ready to do the strategic planning exercise, I feel like we've made enough forward momentum to be able to go ahead and move forward on some of these projects. So first, with the RFP, where to go? So wanted to talk about sort of where we're at now and sort of how we got here. And this is my assessment. I'm certainly going to share how we got to this point. The general plan, or very old general plan, but general plan is pretty much silent or says very little about our financial policies. A lot of it has grown organically from year to year and from council to council. And what has happened over the last several years, we've taken a conservative posture, and this is the last 2 terms. And for a number of reasons, at least from my perspective, uncertainty during COVID, economic crisis, didn't know how we would move out of that, although I think we were pretty much insulated from it. We also built in savings. We had the ARPA funds that we collected, profit dollars from our 2 major development projects, and then the revenue surplus that we've encountered from year after year. What I meant to add on here is retiring debt. We put a significant dent in retiring our debt. And during that posture, we've also identified staffing needs. We've added police departments. We've assessed the growing need for that, and we've go ahead and funded that accordingly. Under this savings posture, there was a trade-off, and that was many of the capital projects we've had for years have been put on hold as we've gotten through sort of, again, this building of savings. At the same time, we've had exponential growth, like we've already talked about, which is internal and external. We see the growth pressures on the outside of town. We've seen the increasing pressures on inside of town. We've mentioned several times, 300 residents, tens of thousands of square feet of new commercial space, increased traffic. So we're having to balance those two positions. I think at the point now we have, and as indicated in the report, one of them, the particular statistic I was looking at was the capital outlay as a percentage of total expenditures. We are fairly conservative compared to our peers throughout the region. So one of the concerns I think we identify is that if we continue to delay our capital projects, we're going to start to see diminishing return on the savings that we've done with increased development costs. Also, the proffer policy, those dollar amounts we collect were written almost 10 years ago, and it was based on land costs and other population statistics at the time. So that value over time has not had the same impact when it was originally conceived. So that was about 10 years ago. Then those projects agreed to those amounts, they paid those dollars, so it's been a significant amount of time. So especially with the ARPA funds too. Now I realize we put these monies in savings, we're collected some interest on those, but perhaps not enough to offset some of the rising costs and projects. So what I would suggest as part of the strategic planning exercise, we realign our standard practices. Moving away from our conservative posture should not be meant to mean we want to spend without abandon. I think realign it so that we're still in a positive fiscal posture, which the survey talked about what those ranges or accepted practices are, but it's based on a couple of scenarios. One, as we've seen during the farmers market, during the Christmas events, we got a lot of people now, people at the hotel, we got a lot of traffic, a lot of pedestrian traffic and vehicular traffic at the intersection. Tonight, when I tried to get to the meeting, I was late because traffic was all the way backed up to the bridge. We do have new residences north of town that cannot get to pedestrian connection to downtown. Increasingly, our focal point being across from the hotel. That plan also, even though it's several years on the books, I believe it's still a viable plan. Improves parking, improves pedestrian traffic and traffic throughout the site. Of all the 3 priorities, this is the most shovel-ready. We put significant resources in it. The site plan's approved. And also, in terms of moving it now, is hoping to avoid some increasing costs. Obviously, the estimates for the project when we started are significantly different than they are now. So, a couple of options. I would say, again, feel like the council would be comfortable moving on this outside of the strategic planning exercise. That being said, it's either taking this independently, maybe having the finance group, have finance liaisons or staff, look at those opportunities with the 2 steps. One, I assume we have to put the request for proposal together. We talked about some of the funding opportunities and some funding timelines through the study. And then look at potential project timelines. We're estimated to retire the sidewalk project within, what, 3 months? 2 months, 3 months or less? Okay. At the same time, paralleling, starting to put together this timeline, look at particular funding options. I was going to recommend scenario 2, or one of the 2 scenarios in the plan, which has a combination of cash and financing. Have those 2 scenarios be, I think in the proposal here, it had those 2 scenarios across all projects, just have that scenario just for the town center project. Combine those two financing options, and then start looking at putting a rough timeline together, because we use this space so much for the farmers market and also the Christmas events. Would some timelines be appropriate to make sure that we're not overriding these other events? So, long way of saying, I believe the opportunity is now. We've done a good job of saving. We've got a positive financial position. We having the ongoing surpluses, that this would be the most appropriate time to go ahead and start funding those. I'm not looking for action tonight, other than just some general feedback from the council. If we want to give any direction, if we want to dedicate more time to this, we want to wait out the strategic planning exercise. But I do feel like we're at the position now where we have to move forward on this project, given the pressing safety, security concerns and some other types of things. So thank you, Vice Mayor, for that presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you. Go ahead, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate your thoughts. I certainly can concur with the need to refocus on pedestrian safety and the walkability of town. I think that has and will always be one of our top priorities here on council. I personally feel like this conversation needs more information. I would like a bit more information about the site plan that's been approved and if there's an expiration date on that. I think there's just like a lot of questions that we may have in terms of like the minute details. And I'm curious how or if our strategic planning efforts will alter this or project it further. So I would be okay with holding this conversation off until at least after our little like strategic planning work session. But I do think it's important, and I do think that there was an investment made for this site plan, and I want to honor that. But I am curious if that site plan expires.
It was signed in October of 2022 and it's
Okay.
5-year shelf life.
Okay, so we are right in the middle of that. So
Correct. We still have
2027.
time. We're right in the middle of it. If it were to reach the kind of expiration, what you're looking at is having to do a reanalysis of stormwater regulations to see if anything's changed, making sure that we're still up to those standards set with some of our outside agencies. So that's the portion that I would say, quote unquote, expires.
Okay, so we would run the risk of exponentially increasing the cost and having an engineer come and review that and establish any changes necessary. Okay, so I think it'd be prudent to act sooner than later, but that's my perspective.
Anybody else?
Oh, yeah.
I think that
You want to go first?
Well, may I?
Sure. Madam Vice Mayor, if I may, I did not give staff a lot of background and preparation other than I wanted to bring this to the council's attention. So asking them questions tonight, I wouldn't in a position of having to answer off the cuff.
Okay.
So if it's one of those things of collecting questions, we can, I may offer, we can do that as well rather than putting staff on the spot tonight.
You want me to go? Or you
Well-
want to go?
I'm wondering if, should we collectively submit questions to staff or
Okay.
open?
Staff would recommend, if you guys want, go ahead and have the discussion now since we weren't able to have it in work session. If you have questions for Councilman Schneider here, please ask both parties. And if there's something that we need more time to research the answer, we will tell you so and we'll come back to you with more information.
Then you go. And then
Okay. Well, I was going to ask staff what they thought of this presentation. It's my opinion that it's a bit premature and seems to get ahead of where staff is. I have a concern that regarding resources and the ability to manage a whole slew of projects. Now, in our capital improvement plan, we have a lot of projects. And I think it's up to staff to prioritize after we set policy and how they're going to manage these. And I don't think you're prepared to discuss that tonight. I think there's going to be some additional thinking and planning. I mean, I think Councilmember Ramirez makes a very good point about the SBP, and I don't necessarily agree that this is outside the SBP. Because when we do the SBP, we're going to be talking about initiatives as well. It's not just the mission, values, and all of that stuff. It's also what are the initiatives we're going to undertake and how are we going to resource load those initiatives? That's a big concern I have, and how they're going to be able to manage all of these projects. So for now, I'm not really sure this is a good time to have this conversation. I think we need to do the SBP, strategic business planning, and lay that out and see how that integrates. I agree that the 3 priorities are this center plan, the park for sure, and how the pedestrian walking town relates to that, as well as the potential for parking. So those are my only comments for now, but I mean, I don't know if staff wants to weigh in, but we can certainly have that discussion later.
Anybody?
Has his hand raised.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Got to turn your volume up.
Can you hear us?
Mayor.
Can you hear us? Go ahead.
He needs to unmute.
Make sure you unmute.
He can't hear me.
Do you need to turn your volume on? We can't hear you.
Can he call it in?
He could call
Can he call it in?
Do you want to call Kim's phone? Would you like to type it in? Is there the bar? It's there's a chat option if you want to have Kim read it in.
Hey, Joe. I have you on speaker. We could put you up to the mic and you can speak if you'd like.
Yeah, I can't get my audio going well here.
Proceed.
Okay, yeah, really when you look at a strategic planning, you got your mission statement, which boils down to your prioritization of what you want to move forward with your tasking. And then we go into the path to get to the points that we want to get to. So really, we need staffing to come out with, after we go through the strategic planning session, to come up with the pathways under the recommendations of what things we want targeted and what money they need. And at that point, we discuss finances. So I think we're a little bit too early to really be discussing this stuff, in my opinion. That's all I have.
So, Mr. Mayor, are you done?
Yes.
So here would be my response to that and point of coming tonight. We have not historically consulted our land use plan and our fiscal policies when we've made decisions from year to year. They've either been through campaign promises or other types of or personal sort of management of finances, and that creates inconsistency from council to council. And that's why we've delayed these projects for this year. We are stockpiling cash at an alarming rate to the point that people have an expectation that we expend these taxes in a reasonable manner. We went through the strategic planning to identify those 3 priorities. Now we're being asked to go through the strategic planning exercise, and it continues to delay from year to year. We have developed a fiscally positive posture. We have the ability, and there's an expectation, and we should be, in a reasonable and consistent fashion, reinvesting within our infrastructure. We had a reason why we developed the conservative posture we have. And I would suggest during the strategic planning exercise, we be formal about that. Going forward, what is our fiscal posture going to be? What are our goals about revenues and goals about expenditures and those types of things so that they don't get sort of addressed from year to year and we continue to delay these projects. So I will respectfully suggest that we have taken the time. We have raised the funds. We have collected these fees. We have established the priorities. And so let's not lose sight of that and continue to move these projects down the line. Because at the end of the day, it's the residents who are impacted. They deserve timely delivery of services in a fiscally responsible manner. The more we collect and continue not extol those fees, I think we're starting to either diminishing return on those savings or we're not serving the citizens in a reasonable manner. That's my opinion. That's why I wanted to bring it up tonight, that we not lose focus on these investments that we've already made and we advance them forward. So thank you for indulging me, and hopefully we will get some productive discussions out of the strategic planning session. And again, opportunity is available. Let's go ahead and exercise it in a reasonable and timely manner. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good. Hold on for the next one.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, so Councilmember Schneider, I just want to say thank you for taking your time to, share with us what you shared with us today. It is, what you talked about today, what you presented is related to one of our strategic priorities, right? The town center project. But I think if I'm understanding you correctly, what you are saying is put the other 2 priorities on hold and focus on the town center project. I think that's the case that you're making, right?
For the reasons I stated in the presentation, yes. Why this would be appropriate to move this over the other 3.
Okay. And I think to the point of other council members, personally, I'd like to have a little bit more information in terms of each priority, right? I know the town center has proposes different changes. I like the part about mitigating safety, right? Traffic congestion and safety, pedestrian safety aspect of things, but it also includes other modifications of changes. And again, I would like to have an understanding of what each of those are. And maybe what we should do is prioritize within each initiative, right? As opposed to going for the entire thing on the entire project when it comes to the town center project. Maybe we tackle, a couple of the things that are, part of that big plan. But setting aside the other priorities and just focusing on this, at this point, I'm a little bit hesitant, right? I think if I'm not mistaken, in terms of the priorities, I believe that the park was number 1, right? And was this number 2 or the parking? Which one was number 2?
I believe parking was 3rd.
I had it listed that this was number 3, parking was number 2, that we wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Land.
I think so, yes. So basically, with this, where you're proposing tackling the 3rd thing on the priority list, right? But
this would be I'm sorry, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, but I agree with you. There is no sense in hoarding money if we can put that money to good use to the benefit of town residents. I agree with you, right? And I think based on the presentation that we had, as long as we are 60%, right? I think our reserves of our operating expense, we're in a good standing, especially when it comes to credit rating, right? Yeah, I have no objection, Go ahead.
So maybe a different way to say it is don't lose priority to all 3, but which one is most viable to move forward now and has the most pressing need? I would argue the pedestrian safety and the way the high usage of this site and the high visibility hate to be, I'm trying to sound political, trumps the rest of, trumps, I think, the rest of the priorities that are there. They can still be focused on, they can still be funded from year to year in terms of us actually getting to the finish line and moving the project forward. So this is a good benchmark to validate. Ken, you okay? No. Please take the time to get through this. I mean, the whole purpose of bringing this is to say, to validate the things that we've been doing, to highlight the things that we probably should be doing more of compared to our peers, and that we have the ability to move forward in a financially responsible manner. We tend to talk a lot, okay? Me for one. So I feel like we keep moving the bar year after year. This shouldn't be, I like to use the term paralysis by analysis, but at some point we got to make a decision. We can't continue to delay from year to year. And that's all I'm saying. End of my term, I had certainly things that I ran on as a councilman. I'd like to see this something that gets moved forward. And again, I believe we have the staffing and the resources to do it. Timing is an issue. But just to clarify what you said, the three, I don't think the idea is to give up on those other two. Which one do we pull the trigger on first? And it seemed like this would be the most ready, able, and we have the capacity to do that, and then let the other ones follow as needed. So thank you.
Yeah, personally, yeah, I mean, you made good points. It's just, I think we're going to need a little bit more time to take a
I
closer
don't
look at,
disagree.
you
Let's
know,
just not lose our eye on the ball and reaffirm through the strategic planning exercise that this is where we want to go. So, and the staff has done a good job of positioning us to answer the call. So
I think it's, may
I
I?
was just going to say, we're having our strategic planning.
Yep.
episode, which
Next
is-
Wednesday.
Yep.
It'll happen, and you won't be able to be there, right? Is that what you said?
correct. That's why I take the I meant to do this at work session, but
Right.
in the interest of time, that's why I went and presented it here.
All right.
And
So.
Just to
if I
clarify,
can
that's
ask-
the kickoff meeting.
Right.
And we will have additional meetings and an additional grouping session to work together.
Right.
That's not the only one.
So what I'm hearing is that Councilmember Schneider wants his voice heard
Yes.
in those meetings. So how do we ensure that that happens? I mean, based on the tape tonight and whatever notes you make, but how do we ensure that he provides that input? Maybe not as assertively because he won't be there, but that input is provided to the facilitator and to the staff. How do we do that?
So today, everybody received on the dais a printed copy. Vice Mayor's holding it up here. That's the pre-activity workbook that you need to all work through. You also received it electronically. Marchant and I spoke last week, and I did inform him that there would be a homework assignment where he can fully input all of his information, just like the rest of council will be doing. Our consultant will then take that and group it together, and then she comes back and has a meeting with us to analyze everything that was inputted and have that bigger discussion. Next week is the kickoff of explaining the who, what, when, where, and why of strategic planning, and get you guys jump started on your homework packet. Certainly, we can also make all necessary measures to record that meeting so that council member Schneider can also listen to that as well.
You got that?
Yes, thank you for advocating for that.
But I do have a question. Why were we even talking about the park building now?
Why is that?
Why are you presenting on the park building when we made a decision in the past and we're moving forward, not backwards?
Because we have a strategic planning session that's coming up.
I was going to say.
And there's
Can you answer my
other,
question?
so, correct. So I believe to date, there's only one bid that's been received. We also had the financial report that talks about our revenues
Mhm.
and how the distribution of our revenues and some of the risks. And also the strategic planning session that's coming up, where probably one of those things we would talk about asset management.
Right.
So
But-
wanted to share some of my thoughts, and we don't need action on tonight, but again, not being part of those strategic planning sessions, I wanted to offer that during work session this evening.
Are we closed on the town center discussion?
I am, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I knew he was.
We're
Yeah.
making sure our clerk knew that.
Yeah, so we're closed on that, and then
Okay.
we're going to open up the park building
Cool.
discussion.
Thank you. I appreciate the council's indulgence.
So I just want to make a comment about that because I see it on the agenda. And I heard what you just said, but I mean, I thought the time for deliberation was over and the time for implementation is now. I mean, this is
So-
what you've been saying about the town center project.
Mhm.
The time for implementation is now. And we've made a decision to move forward with the pavilion. So I'm not really sure, have you talked to the staff about this? Are they aware of what your thoughts are on this? Could you share?
I gave Emily why I wanted it on the agenda.
Mhm.
So Councilman Passanello, as you know, I advise a team of 10 planners that advise boards and commissions.
Right.
And on a regular basis, when we're asked about to provide a staff recommendation or a recommendation, a professional recommendation, and those decisions are made outside of those decisions, we often get the question, staff, how do you answer to, or how do you respond when folks do not align with the staff recommendation? I said, that's fine, so long as the council has all the information that they need to make a decision. Having one bid versus what is the best practice of at least having 3 or a minimum of 2, depending upon that. And I understand you put in your finance report that you will have that meeting tomorrow and will be posted, which I have other comments about that. We'll address at a later date. But there's more information to be considered in going into the RFP, which is not information that was previously covered during the discussion. So I would like to not ask the commission or the board council make a decision tonight. Simply wanted to share some additional information as you go into considerations of the bid. So I'd appreciate the council's indulgence. So, okay. Okay. Coming back. Okay, so when we talked about the general fund last month, one of the things that talked about was the distribution of revenues across the board, and this was on page 14. And one of the parameters was a risk that was assigned was the meals tax, and that is susceptible to economic conditions or have risks associated with that. We've also year over year decreased our real estate tax. So I was going to suggest as part of the planning session that we codify that or memorialize that in a position, so we're not having this debate over a year. Let's have a larger analysis of what it means for year after year to reduce that real estate tax and what pressures do we put on other revenue sources to do that. So offset the risk associated with meals revenue. I've said this again, I think it's common to say, again, how are we in our strategic planning session, how are we maximizing or monetizing our assets in the historic district? And generally, if you Google online, historic districts increase meals taxes by people coming into town to be a part of this environment, increases property values, encourages reinvestment in other properties, and promote town resources, uniqueness of the Lewis homes. Whether Lewis home is here or not, people want to come see it versus all the other structures that we have in town. That is a particular style that has a particular interest and a particular following and can benefit. And we've started putting together a historic walking tour that talks about that now. Since our decision on the house, we've also had, I think, candidly, our interest in the demolition and interest in historic resources is still mixed. We had the Youth and Government program, which talked about one of the opportunities to look at reuse of that structure. And we've also had, if you look at all of the online comments recently of all the structures in and around town that are coming down and sort of the mixed reactions to that, I would still say it's not a definitive answer on historic reuse and demolition overall. So via the strategic planning session, one of the things that we brought up during the demolition but did not spend time on was asset management. We have a lot of assets. We have expanding staff. We have increasing use of leasable space above Copper Cricket and others that we use for storage, and we use some of our parking out back for storage. So how are we leveraging those staff resources to meet the future need? Across the way, we have leasable space in the top of the building that, yes, would take some costs to make that more leasable. But again, if we're looking at revenues, what revenue is lost by space, and if we eliminate some of these resources, how do we compensate that, or how do we make up for it later? So I had some of the events. We have an increasing number of events and equipment that goes with that. We've also talked about the comfort station and all auxiliary police space concepts. Where would we anticipate those going? And also a conditioned public workspace. We have a public works department that has limited space with which to do work year round. So use of the park building as an alternate space. Again, we've made the decision, but certainly as part of that, considering the future asset management, is that what is the alternative space for bathrooms, workspace, and storage? As I wrote here, potential lesser costs than initiated for the purpose space original in the master plan. That is billed for the bathroom, which was about $50K. Fixing the foundation, about $40K, and some other engineering improvements. I think it was lost in the conversation, the amount of money that has already been spent on the structure, tens of thousands of dollars, actually. So the roof is still serviceable, an entirely new HVAC system and distribution system, roofing insulation, floor reinforcements on the front of the building, all new electrical for new light fixtures, plaster and paint repair, and a bunch of window coverings. The point of pointing this out is that if we were to use that space either for these other items, that a lot of those initial costs would be offset. And would the offset of using it different than the community space? When you have a community space, it has a lot higher dollar amount. And can we offset that by changing the types of uses if we don't find the demo RFP as viable? Again, offset future costs. When the building comes down, we lose any opportunity to provide these other services. And as part of the strategic planning session, does that make sense? What is the cost? What is the delay? And again, there's one alternate use. The survey looked at 2 uses. There's alternate uses that may cost or may have faster delivery of services and lesser cost to the pavilion. If we were to reuse that space, then there's an opportunity to put the pavilion for the original plan, which is between the park building and the playground. So that's just information I wanted to share going into strategic planning. Whether the building is used or not, for other purposes, we do need to start thinking strategically about our assets, how we want to move them. I talked to Roberto at one point, we talked about selling assets. Do we want to create a subdivide all our lots and sell them off? There's some practical reasons why not to do that. But do we really want to set up how we want to manage these assets? Do we want to have a public works building? Do we want to expand the police department? All those types of things. It'd probably be helpful to start having that conversation now so that we can plan for the future and start managing assets correctly. So thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts on that ahead of the strategic planning session. I'm not asking for any direction other than just those elements to be considered as we review the RFP. Thank you for the council's time.
Right.
That's all I had, Madam Vice Mayor.
Any questions,
Oh, sure.
comments?
Always a question or a comment. I think we have to be clear on something here. I appreciate your presentation and the positive spin on it. What it fails to discuss are the operating and maintenance costs associated with it. We can't be ignoring those as well. The long term, over the strategic horizon of 20 to 30 years. So that's not in there. And we have been talking about asset management. I want to give the town manager a little bit of an opportunity maybe to speak a little bit about asset management and what the maintenance worker is doing on some of those things. I think that's important because I think we need to dispel that fact or that myth that we're not looking at assets. So could you speak to that just a little bit?
Before you do that, Councilman Passanello, I strongly disagree with that characterization. We've made investments in existing staff that be able to cover the cost. We have other contracts that be able to cover the cost. And an alternative with a lesser intensity of use would not require as much staff. So I hope at some point, we come from 2 different backgrounds, one of why not, one of how to. I would have hoped by the end of my term, we would have had some consensus at the beginning. Great questions, but it shouldn't be at the cost of vetting these other options or other considerations. So that's my offer.
So I would just state that since we were able to hire a maintenance employee and someone who can work with us full-time, we've been able to do a much better job at documenting our assets, the general maintenance of a lot of our systems that we have on the properties that we own. It is something that there was a lot of deferred maintenance and a lot of issues that came up and were noticed when this employee started full-time. So it's something we are still actively working on 1 year plus in on him being full-time with us. So it's taking time, but we are able to better look at all of our systems, keep better record logs of them, and really figure out what we have, how it's functioning, and then putting it into a cycle of repair or general maintenance and upkeep.
So again, the issue of the council members' input to the strategic planning, that can be offered through the packet that you gave us.
Yes, that's
That can
correct.
ensure. Okay, thank you.
And so just to clarify, so the idea is that space planning, we have the maintenance side of it. It's the physical space. We have storage, Copper Cricket. We've got storage in the town, in the park building now that we got to find a place for. The garage is full. Does that mean at some point we start renting spaces from Haymarket Storage? That may not be the best use of resources. It's that sort of thinking. If we want to do a care center, does a care center here have the same, what is the impact on services if we want to have a care center here versus, again, a serviceable building that could be used to do that? We talked about auxiliary space for the police department. Where would we put that? Where's the opportunity to put that? That's what I'm talking about, space planning. The maintenance is part of it, but also too, physically, where are people going to go? Where are services going to be made? Where is the storage going to be? That's the sort of thinking we should be looking at too in terms of space planning, not just the maintenance, although maintenance is an important part. So thinking ahead. Thank you.
Any other questions? Concerns? I'm just going to make one comment because I do appreciate the presentation. I appreciate I use this word because we all have our passions and we should speak to them. Decisions are made and we are wanting to move forward, much to your point in your first presentation. So that's what I wanted to say in regards to that. So we're good.
Sorry to belabor that point as well. I take pause when people say passion because that somehow undermines, I know you don't mean it that way,
No.
but I encounter that a lot when I try to, part of my contributions to the town has been following our land use policies, following our ordinances.
Right.
And sometimes when the statement is made, being passionate, it marginalizes the importance of the holistic approach that we're supposed to do for the council and something that I've promoted for quite some time. So I would just I appreciate that. You're right. There's passion base, but I would just hope that when people hear that as well, that it's not taken as a way to overlook other.
Right. And
Cool.
and we've had that discussion
Yep.
before, which is why I said I
Thank you.
hesitate to use that word.
Thank
but
you.
It was the word that I used.
Thank
So,
you.
All right. So if we are done, then we will move on to council member time. All right. So I am filling in for the mayor this evening. So we will start with council member Benny. I never say it right. I don't.
Benny.
Benny, thank you.
Yeah, as usual, I don't have anything to add today.
No. Okay.
You have a lot of comments?
All right.
Well, I'll make up for
Okay.
the council member. First, I want to thank Kendall and Alex's Army for being here tonight. Thank you for sharing your story. And it's not only Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, it's also Blood Cancer Awareness Month in September. So that's a shared awareness month. So you've got both. Early bird voting begins on the 20th of this month, but be clear, it's not at the library. The early bird voting starts in Manassas only. And then on the 13th, you can begin to go to the satellite locations to do early voting up until, I think, just before Election Day, the Saturday before, right? So I wanted to get that out there. A couple more things. Leopold's Preserve is having a fall festival the 21st of September from 11 to 3. That might be something we might want to put out there on our notifications. It's a real opportunity to get out there and meet some people, environmentalist type people. It's I think it's 800 or 380 acres with 7 miles of trails, but they'll have all kinds of fun things to do that Saturday. And it's right off of Thoroughfare. A very important discussion is upcoming. There's going to be a multi-district town hall at Unity Reed High School in Manassas, and that's sponsored by our supervisor, Bob Weir, and a couple other supervisors. And they're going to be focusing on affordable dwelling ordinance, and community safety. Let's see, a couple more. Yes, sometime in October, there's going to be a paper shredder available for everybody in town and in the district. There is going to be one at, I believe, at Haymarket Elementary School next Saturday, the 6th, from 8 to 2. So if you have a lot of material and stuff, you can get rid of it. And then the other thing is, and I don't know, you probably are more aware of it than I am, they're also seeking Solheim Cup volunteers, and you might want to speak to that later. Thank you. I'm all done.
Councilman Pasanello, the information about early voting and mail by voting is on our display board out at the outside.
Great, wonderful. Thank you.
Done?
Finished.
Okay. Snyder.
Oh, next, okay. Just I would encourage folks to take the strategic plan option seriously. It is good training and talk about the breadth of issues and concerns and elements that we need to put into our decision making. And also, if there's an opportunity to offer that, or at least have the new candidates listen in, if they can be invited to be made aware of that opportunity as well, I think that would be good for them to listen in and see where the council's going and be ready to answer questions about that. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Councilman Pasanello stole a lot of my thunder. So Kendall, thank you for coming and speaking. And Alex's Army, thank you so much for all that you do for our community. It was really a pleasure to listen to you and your story. So thank you for sharing. I wanted to share that along with Childhood Cancer Awareness and Blood Cancer Awareness Month, it's also Suicide Prevention Month. So your life matters, and the hotline is 988. Please use it if you need some support. I also want to share that the Youth in Government application is live for middle schoolers. So if you know a middle school student who would be interested in getting their toes wet in local government, please check out our website, or we have an application on your way out on the table there. I'm really excited about this one. We'll get to have a discussion about proffer dollar usage, and I'm excited to see where they take it. The last year's participants really took the bull by the horns, if you will, and I'm really proud of that. So I'm excited for this year. The deadline for the application will be September 20th, which is also early bird voting, which is at the Office of Elections office in Manassas by the courthouse. And then just to clarify, I believe Councilmember Pasanello mentioned the 13th. It will be the October 13th, correct? Yeah, October 13th up until I believe November 2nd, maybe. You can do early voting. So please, if you're not registered, register to vote. Your vote matters. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilman Gallagher.
I'd like to, first of all, thank the high school students who came out tonight. Thank you for being here. You guys got lucky tonight. Sometimes we're here a lot later. So you got an easy night. Don't promise that to your classmates because it might not happen. Consider yourselves lucky. Look, one of the things I know we talked about in the work session was about communications. I'm very passionate about getting proper and good communication out. I am proud of a lot of the efforts. I hear a lot of great feedback from our residents with regards to the app. I do think it's a chicken and egg problem where we have to get the communication out that we have a communication mechanism, that would help people. So I'm encouraged about working on the communication plan. I've asked for, in our work session, I did ask for feedback from our council and our staff, but I would love to hear from any residents that might be listening in or residents that are in the audience. My door is always open to learn about the best ways for you to get information, what types of information that you'd like to be getting from the town as well. I think that would be very helpful in all of our planning. Whether that be the strategic planning sessions that have been discussed or any other planning going forward. That's it.
Great, wonderful. Is the mayor able to? Okay.
There you go.
There we go.
All right.
Hey.
That's right. That's right. Mm.
All right, thank you. All right, so I also was going to mention the Flags for Heroes event on the 14th, so I'm very happy that Mayor did as well. Senator Rome will be here at our October regular meeting. She's asking for input on matters that may affect the town to bring them to the meeting so she can start drafting legislation and in a timely manner. I did want to give a shout out to our police department. We had a big training here in Haymarket this past couple weeks. Had an opportunity to talk to several members, and they were out for early morning runs and saw our police department at the bus stops. And though they weren't from the area, came up and talked to me and told me how much they appreciated and saw that and were blown out of the water. So thank you very much for doing what you do. Solheim Cup is going to be in the neighborhood, the 10th through the 15th. So the big practice games, and then the 12th through the 15th are the big professional games. They are looking for volunteers. So please reach out. I can get you in contact with the golf course and see what they might still need as far as volunteers.
But they give pennies too.
Yeah. No. Farmers Market, I've really enjoyed the live music, so I find that that's a great addition this season, so thank you. Hoping all the kids are enjoying back to school. And then, yes, thank you to Alex's Army so much. Thank you. So that is all I have.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.